Welcome back to the Dethroning Your Inner Critic YouTube channel, where you can learn how to stop the self-sabotaging voice in your head from getting in your way of living your most empowered and abundant life. Today, I want to talk to you about self-awareness and why it's so important to understand exactly how to think. So I think of self-awareness as the understanding of your automatic inner critic mind and exactly how it works so that you can actually hear your authentic self. That's your true nature. That's actually your soul's calling. And I believe that unless you know the difference between you and your inner critic mind, that you probably have some stuck energy that isn't allowing you to live either some or many parts of your life in a way that you truly want to be living. So when you know the difference between the two, right, between you and your inner critic, you have the power to literally dissolve your beliefs that have been creating all that stuck energy. And knowing how to free up that stuck emotional and spiritual energy is really the greatest power you can have. Okay. Now, many of you have things that you want to be creating in so many areas of your life, your personal life, your professional life, right? And you have beliefs that are holding you back. You might not even know what those are. Now, a belief is nothing more than a thought that we think over and over again. Okay, so a belief that's holding us back from really creating the future and designing the life that we really want to be living. Okay, that's really just a thought that we made up a long time ago. We've believed that it's the truth. So that's exactly what your inner critic mind is, right? It's just automatic thoughts that have been repeating on autopilot for your whole life. Okay, so your inner critic wants to be very right about her beliefs, okay? And she really actually wants to fight for her existence. So when you listen to that automatic mind, right? That's the mind that I call your inner critic. It's because you mistake her for you, okay? So her belief operates as the automatic program in your mind. And she continues over and over and over again to find evidence out there in the world to prove her beliefs to be right. Okay. So here's the interesting part, right? It's not what your inner critic says that's the problem. It's actually how much you believe her, because you're never going to stop what she's saying. Okay. You're never going to stop her from saying what she's been saying for forever. So what she's been saying to you is not in any way unique to you. Okay. I've been in rooms with hundreds of people, and I can ask, how many of you believe that when life is so good and you're on top of the world, that something bad is going to happen because this happiness and all that I'm creating isn't going to last? And almost every hand goes up, okay? Because that is an inner critic belief, okay? Now, every thought that we have carries weight, okay? So think about the weight of an angry thought or a jealous thought, or thoughts about your resentments towards someone, or thoughts about I'm not good enough to actually create what it is that I really want to create at this stage of my life, right? So allowing these thoughts to occupy space in our minds and in our hearts requires a lot of energy. It requires physical energy, mental energy, spiritual energy. Okay, so think about how much energy is sucked out of you when your inner critic mind is whipping up the same thoughts over and over again. All right, think about the broken record of shame, right? And trying to find your value and worthiness out there from your accomplishments or what other people think about you, right? Or looking good in the eyes of others, right? Because your automatic beliefs about you or about somebody else or about a circumstance or a situation in your life, okay, those beliefs are actually going to mirror what's going on in your life. In other words, your life is going to mirror your inner critic's beliefs. Okay. So your inner critic will actually project her beliefs onto you and into your life and actually make them true. Okay. So all of your unhappiness, all of your lack of fulfillment, all of your lack of peace is actually only caused by those automatic beliefs. All right. So we've got this cultural insanity around us, fear and greed and unworthiness and never being good enough. Right. And that has wreaked havoc on our lives individually and collectively. Okay. So when you know how to think, and when you know the difference between you and your inner critic, and actually that the two are separate, okay, now you are armed not only with the tools to stop that insanity, okay, in your life, but actually the tools to really create and design an entirely new life. Okay. So I created the mind method. I wrote about the mind method in my book, Dethroning Your Inner Critic, the 4-step journey from self-doubt to self-empowerment. And I did all of that because I believe that the practice of freeing ourselves from our inner critic is a lifelong moment by moment practice, right? So as we continue this practice, we can actually start to see the changes in our awareness. We can see ourselves stepping into a new version of ourselves. Okay. I can't tell you how amazing it is to hear from people that I work with that there are situations that they are handling in a completely different way, or that they're seeing something that's possible for themselves in their life that they hadn't seen before. Okay. So the true power of self-awareness is that it actually provides freedom and possibility that didn't exist before. Okay. And energetically, when you're living in a very different life and seeing very different possibilities, you've got different energy in your life. Okay. Now, because we're never getting rid of our inner critic mind, we are endlessly shifting between our inner critic mind and the mind of our authentic self. Okay. And this is what it means to be human, right? So when you know the difference between the two, now you can easily spot at any given moment when your inner critic has regained power. And that's everything. Okay. Because depending on who is in control of your mind is going to determine the thoughts and the beliefs that you're having, and the emotions that you're experiencing, and the actions that you're taking, and therefore life that you're living. Okay. So if more often than not, you are fused with that inner critic mind, okay, then the way that you experience life most of the time is that in some way you're not enough, right? Or maybe someone else isn't enough, okay? And your life isn't enough, right? So your thoughts are therefore mostly aligned with scarcity and separateness, right? And the emotions that come from those thoughts are fear, doubt, anxiety, shame, discontent, frustration. Okay. So you can actually help your inner critic to relax into a completely new sense of self, right? Just because you're bringing awareness, not only to what isn't in alignment with this inner world, okay, but also what isn't in alignment with your outer world as well. Okay. Now, so a lot of people, when you're making these changes, right, this can be very threatening to your inner critic. Okay. So you might start to recognize that you have some relationships in your life that aren't in alignment with your authentic self. You might even start to experience that you have careers that are no longer in alignment with your authentic self, right? And so This is how you literally armor yourself with the tools, okay, to change the trajectory of where your life is headed, okay? So when you start practicing the mind method daily, all right, you don't just start impacting one area of your life, you really impact every area of your life, because how we do one thing is how we do everything, okay? So when we even start bringing that awareness, taking even those small steps to rewire new thoughts and new beliefs, right? We start to feel those small shifts in our emotions, and then those small shifts in our emotions create small shifts in our behaviors. And these small shifts, practiced over time, have the possibility of creating a completely different life, okay? Now, here's the life that you start to create when you know how to unhook yourself from your automatic mind, okay? So your authentic self lives in love. Your inner critic lives in fear. Your authentic self is accepting of you and of others. Your inner critic judges you and everyone else. Your authentic self knows that you already are enough and you already have everything that you need now to live a joyous and contented life. Now, your inner critic convinces you that you need to be different and somebody else needs to be different and life needs to be different. Your authentic self is already at peace. Your inner critic is the one creating the conflict. Your authentic self knows that you're already worthy. Your inner critic finds your worthiness in the opinions of others. Your authentic self doesn't need any validation or approval from anyone. Your authentic self doesn't need to find those accomplishments and those goals in order to feel good enough, okay? Your authentic self is already at peace, okay? So your authentic self can therefore take life moment by moment by moment and trust that no matter what happens, all is well. So your inner critic is trying to control exactly how your life unfolds and therefore lives in a lot of chaos, okay? And kind of waiting for that next shoe to drop. Your authentic self is able to surrender and accept where life flows, okay? Your inner critic tries to control where your life flows. Your authentic self can allow other people to be on their own journey. It's your inner critic that needs to be right about how wrong their journey is. Your inner critic won't be fulfilled until the ideal picture of you and your life is met. Your authentic self is grateful for who you already are and the life you're already living. So as we continue to use the mind method, meet our inner critic, investigate the indication signs, neutralize the never-ending messages, and design our life, right? We start to liberate our stuck energy and life starts to flow to truly the most magical places, okay? So new people, new experiences, new inspiration that is already in alignment with our authentic self now has the opportunity to come into our lives. So we start to see shifts happening right before our eyes, and that's the journey. And the journey starts to actually become enjoyable, right? We find ourselves reclaiming parts of ourselves that we either lost or we never had access to. And when we're living from that rewired mind, the possibilities of where our life will go become endless. So using the mind method, we can actually know our true selves. That's the power of self-awareness, okay? We can live our lives from a place of love, and that's when life becomes miraculous, okay? We can remember that we're spiritual beings on this planet having a human experience, and we can see how we are all way more alike than we are different, okay? So you can leave that self-inflicted prison that your inner critic has trapped you in. Okay. And this is going to require all of us to step outside of our comfort zone. So I want you to imagine that life for yourself. What would your life be like if every day you were focused on what really matters and you trusted your intuition, you trusted the timing of your life to unfold as it is meant to, right? Instead of trying to force and control, you would be living a very different life. So if you like these videos, please subscribe to the channel and keep watching. I'd love to hear from you and see how all of these videos are helping you transform the life you're living. Thanks for watching. Bye.